Today we're going to talk about an introduction to linear relations. Before we get started, let's review the Cartesian plane. Identify and label the following. So we've got the x-axis, y-axis, the origin, quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4, all written in Roman numerals. So this is our Cartesian plane. We have going across is our x-axis. The x-axis, when you go to the right, the farther right you go, it becomes more positive, and the farther left you go, it's going to get more negative. Then the up and down system, we have our y-axis. So the higher up you go, the values become more positive, and the further down you go, the values become more negative. Now, where these two axes meet, we have a special point, and this is called the origin. And the value of the origin is 0, 0, because it is at 0 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. Now, quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're going to label this because the x and y axes create 4 different squares. The first one is the one that we're probably most familiar with. Quadrant 1, all of the values in quadrant 1 will have a positive x value and a positive y value. We're going counterclockwise now. So in quadrant 2, we now have a negative x value and a positive y value. Negative x because left of the origin, everything on the x-axis is negative, and we're still on the positive side of the y-axis. Now, once again, going counterclockwise, we now have quadrant 3 here. Quadrant 3, we have negative x values and we also have negative y values. So negative x and negative y. Finally, our last quadrant, we have quadrant 4, and the Roman numeral for 4 is IV. V is 5. We have 1 before 5, and that gives us 4. Okay, so our x-axis is positive, and the y-axis is a negative value. We're going to use the Cartesian plane to help us plot points. Now, the way we plot points, we always have to start at the origin. Then we're going to count the number of steps in the x direction and count the number of steps in the y direction. Finally, where you land, you're going to place a dot. And that is where your point is going to be. Place a dot at the final destination. So I say final destination because it's like a map. We're starting at the origin. We're counting the number of steps that we're going in the x direction, and we're counting the number of steps in the y direction. Finally, we're going to place a dot where we land. So let's look at this. I have the point 8, 2. So I start at the origin. I'm going to go 8 steps in the x-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'm going to go up by 2 units. 1, 2. And this is where we finally land. Let me label that. We have the point A at 8 and 2. Next, let's do B. -2, 3. So because this is a negative x value, we're going to walk to the left. 2 steps left and then 3 steps up. Start at the origin, so 2 steps and then 3 steps up. So point B is -2, +3. Next one, C, -8 and 0. Now we're starting at 0 and we're going 8 steps to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's our point. Let's label it. C is -8 and 0. It told us there were 0 steps in the y direction, so we just landed here. So here's a question. Where is C? Is C in quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4, or is it in none of these quadrants and lying on an axis instead? Well, the correct answer for that one is point C lies on the x-axis. It's not part of quadrant 2 or quadrant 3. It's on the dividing line. It's just on an axis. D, -7, -5. So we're starting at 0, taking 7 steps to the left, and then 5 steps down. So we have D is -7, -5. Finally, E, 0 and 6. So we're starting at the origin. We're going to go 0 steps left or right and go up by 6 units. We have our point E here. And once again, point E is on is not in a quadrant, but rather it is on an axis. It's on the y-axis. Pause the video now. Try some of this work. Each pair of number at the bottom of the page stands for a point that's on the coordinate. When you match it, write the letter, and it's going to come out with an answer to the joke, what did one ear say to the other?